So as I said in the previous video, unfortunately, we cannot work out the exact mean from a grouped frequency table, but we can work out an estimate of the mean. So can you make sure you copy down this table for me and just give yourself a little bit of space to work with to the right of that table as well. Now, let's just have a think about this. So say I wanted to, well, first of all, let's just add in 2 columns to this. Okay, so you're going to want something that looks like that. So those 27 students in that first group, I don't know exactly how long they spent revising. What do you think might be a good estimate to use? Well, hopefully you said, well, how about the middle, right? I don't know if they spent 5 hours. I don't know if they spent 0 hours. Let's just say that maybe on average in there, they spent 2.5 hours. And that is going to be the key value we're going to want to use, 2.5. How about the next group? So 5 to 10. What do you think might be a good value there to give everyone of those 44? Well, again, hopefully we said, well, how about halfway between 5 and 10? 7.5. So when you are working out the mean from a grouped frequency table, what you need to do is you need for each class to find the midpoint, because that's what we're going to use as a rough guess as to what all those people in that class did. So at 2.5, 7.5, the midpoint between 10 and 15. Now, if you need to work out the midpoint, so write this down, please. So midpoint between 2 numbers. So this actually will come in handy in future. So midpoint between 2 numbers you add them and divide by 2. So that's how you work out the midpoint between two numbers. So here we want the midpoint between 10 and 15. 10 add 15 is 25. Half of 25 is 12.5. Let's use that same formula for this last one, even though we can probably work it out without it. 15 add 20 is 35. Half of 35 is 17.5. So those are what we're going to use as our estimates as to how long people spent revising. Well, now, all we need to do is follow the same process as when I was working out the mean from a normal frequency table. But this time I'm going to use these values. So here I'm going to do the frequency times the midpoint. And I'm going to use my calculator because I can definitely not do those in my head. Well, 2.5 times 27 is 67.5. So just remember, it's important to think about what these tables are representing. So we're saying those 27 people, roughly between them, studied for around 67.5 hours. So we're working out a rough estimate as to what the next 44 did. So we're going to do 44 times 7.5, and it's 330. 21 times 12.5 is 262.5. And 8 times 17.5 is 140. Right, so let's follow the same routine. So we're going to add those all up in that column. And bizarrely, actually, that works out to give me 800. Now, the last step, so dividing. So what do we need to divide by? Now, I keep forgetting to mention this, but it's really important because I really see a common mistake of going 800, there are 4 columns. There are 4 rows, so 800 divided by 4, 200, there we go, done. And that's what they give as their answer. Can you tell me why straight away you know that's not correct? Hopefully you thought, well, look, the most that anyone spent revising was about 20 hours. So how on earth could possibly be 200 as the mean amount of time anyone spent. But you'd be amazed at how many times I see this mistake being made. They work out the mean, but that mean could be nowhere on that table, like it's normally way too high. So people just don't use their common sense and go, wait a minute, that can't be right. What have I done? Oh, I wasn't supposed to divide by 4. What I was supposed to do was divide by how many people there were, or how many people surveyed, or how many objects. So I need to do 800 divided by the 100 students, and I get 8. And that feels like a much more sensible hour, that 8 hours was the time spent. I've got a lot of people in this one, and there's probably roughly about the same above and below that. So yeah, 8 hours sounds roughly about right. So when we're working out the mean from a grouped frequency table, step 1, find the midpoints of the classes. Please make sure you write down these instructions. So find the midpoints. Next, we're going to add on the extra column, and a bit like we did with the normal frequency tables, you're going to work out the midpoints times the frequency. And then finally, divide that total by the total frequency. So as you'll notice, all 4 of the statistics we've been taking from frequency tables, when we do grouped frequency tables, they're very, very similar. We've just got a few little changes in the details and the terminology. And this is the main change. It's finding out these midpoints first. But then the rest of the process is the same. Right, can you use this process and have a go at the one on the next slide? So pause your video and please find an estimate of the mean length using this table. So pause the video and then I'll talk through it. Okay, so my first step is I'm going to draw in those extra columns. Next, I need to find the midpoints. So the midpoints between 10 and 20, add them and divide by 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. 20 add 30 is 50, divided by 2 is 25. 35 for this one, 45 for this one. That's step 1. Next, I'm going to do, for each one, I'm going to do the frequency times the midpoint. So 17 times 15 is 255. 26 times 25 is 650. 11 times 35 is 385. And 6 times 45 is 270. Now I'm going to find the total of that column, and I get 1560. And remember, I do not divide by 4. So again, if I'd made that mistake, I'd have found the mean length was 390, and my head should go straight away, that can't be right, because the maximum length that anything had was 50. So why is that not right? No, so I don't divide that by 4. I divide it by the total frequency, and the total frequency here is 60. So I'm doing 1560 divided by 60, and work out that the mean length is 26. Don't forget, it might be a bit of a weird decimal, in which case you might have to round. 26. I'm just going to look in that table. That would be roughly in around here. That feels about right. I've got a lot of values in 20 to 30. That's a modal class. A lot of values in there, and a lot of values in 10 to 20. Not so many up the upper end of the spectrum. So that feels about right as well. So it'd be 26 centimetres would be my estimate of the mean. Okay, so there is a worksheet attached to this assignment. Have a go at working out the questions on there.